Hello interwebs, this is Nathan coming to you from Nathan's Garage. I was just working on a Mame Cabinet. This is Mame Cabinet version 4.0. I'll put in pictures of 1, 2, and 3 here to show you the versions, and wanted to show you guys basically how to do this. So my lawn guy, he saw me putting this together, and he wanted one made for his son. After a bit of time, he brought out a monitor for me. So he says he wants it built to this size. So let's see what kind of scrap I have. Me and the wife got a new TV. Our old TV stopped working. Say hi to Courage and Pesto. So I decided to use the old TV stand in this build. So I've already taken out some of the drawers. I've already gotten some of the system prepped. So if we go into the garage, got my scrap over here. Here's one of the drawers, and here is the other drawer. So what I did here is I took one of the drawers out. I cut it down to size with a jigsaw, and then I drilled out the holes for 30mm arcade buttons and joysticks. I used a 30mm Forstner bit on my drill here to drill out these holes, and I've got a box of gear and buttons that I used on my previous builds that I will be installing. Oh, the reason that this looks all shiny and epoxy, unlike this, which is what it was originally, is that I had some epoxy left over from another project I was doing, and so I poured it out. I got it all nice and smooth so that it makes a nice, good, hard playing surface. And I'll be right back with the buttons. So what we have here is a Sanwa clone joystick, 8 directions. I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill for these, because I'd hate to mess up my nice top there. So I'm just going to go in about to here on my drill. I center these by hand. There probably is some nice mathematical way to do it, which I'm sure you'll tell me in the comments, but and to center it by hand, you just grab underneath, make sure that your fingers feel the same width the whole way around. Alright, so back again. I found my screws. The important thing when you're picking a screw is make sure it is long enough and bulky enough that it will hold down the joystick, but not so long and bulky that it will go through the top. So when I flip it over, I shouldn't be seeing any screw heads. I've then gone ahead and put some brass standoffs, these guys, underneath the electronics that I'm mounting to the board, and then I've attached them with 2 screws. These guys shouldn't be getting any tugging on, so not as big a deal. Here's the brass standoffs for this guy right here. This is a USB controller. You can get them real cheap on Amazon. This is just a quick aid in wiring up the controls. So I'll be wiring these guys up, and next time you see me, I will be putting in some buttons. So as far as buttons go, you got a lot of choices. You just want a reliable button with a good micro switch. If you want certain feels, you can get branded HAP or Sanwa buttons. These are generic buttons, but they get the job done. So there's 2 different types here, my coin and my player buttons. Like this guy are a little bit fancier. The other ones are just snap in. These go in and then they screw in with a little compression nut from the back, and then you add the micro switch. This is a micro switch. You wire these up to make the buttons depress. These guys, much simpler. You just pop them in and wire them up, and they're good to go. So give me a minute and I will put these guys in. Okay, so here you have it. Buttons all popped in, screwed in. This side already has the knob on the handle. Now this person that I'm making this for really likes the Neo Geo setup, so I have the buttons, or I will have the buttons 1, 2, 3, 4, or A, B, C, D, and then these ones will be used for other games. I personally am a fan of the Capcom setup, so this is my template for the Capcom setup. To do the template for the Neo Geo, you just move it down and to the right slightly, and that way if you still want to play the Capcom games, you can. So these come with a little plastic washer so that you don't get any crumbs or anything under there, or at least it's less likely. This one over here I didn't have the plastic washer for, so I found a metal washer. This hole wasn't quite big enough, but I drilled it so it was. And then we just take the topper and screw it on. Now there are other options as far as the toppers. You can get bat toppers, or you can get topper extenders if you like longer throws. But the throw of the joystick is when you move it up, down, left, right. That gives you your throw. Over here, and then you get your buttons, and I'm going to turn it over and start wiring it up. Alright, so on the back, with the ones with the micro switches you have to add, you just press down, or you find how they sit in there, and then you push down and give a quarter turn to lock it in. And then you can turn it any way you need to get it to line up. As far as the wiring goes, whenever you buy the USB controllers here, they give you these handy dandy wires. You can build them yourself too, if you are so inclined. Whenever you're wiring, if you have your got your red and your black, some people are concerned about which one goes to which. It does not matter. For those of you who know electronics, this is a simple circuit. The thing that does matter is that you are consistent on where you put this wire into this USB controller. So now whenever I do this button on this side, this one has to go to this one. If not, whenever you're setting up Raspberry Pi, it will get confused as to which buttons are which. So, speaking of Raspberry Pi, this is the heart, brains, and computer of the operation, a Raspberry Pi 3B. If you were overclocking it or running anything anywhere near new, I would recommend putting this in a case that you can get along with the Raspberry Pi 3B. For this test run, I'm not going to put it in the case. I'm going to pay attention to the temperature and see what it is, and then maybe I will get a case for it at a later time. Once you have all of your wires hooked up, as you can see, the Sanwa over here, the Sanwa clone, has a ribbon already attached to it. If this was not the case, you would just run the wires from the leads to this part here for the up, down, left, right. But I like to keep it easy. Get the ones with the built-ins. Once you get all that hooked up, you're going to connect the USB cord. This end goes right here, and the other end will go to your Raspberry Pi. Alright, so I'm going to do that, and I will come back shortly. Alright, so just one last shot with it all lined up. Have a good night.